When I went to deliver documents to my boss's house, I ended up getting locked down there. What are the 3 sentences that can make a man spend 180,000 yuan? I can turn my boss into my lackey in just 14 days. As I knocked on President Ku's door, I cursed every single one of his ancestors in my heart. Damn capitalists. Paying me such a pitiful salary even a dog would shake its head at. Treating me like a beast of burden. On such a cold day, ordering me to deliver documents to his home. I'm not even his secretary. If it weren't for the job market being tough due to the pandemic, I would have already thrown my resignation letter right in his face. What a jerk. No wonder he's still single at his age. Just as I was mentally cursing my boss with a twisted expression, the door suddenly swung open. President Ku was dressed in grey pajamas, his hair slightly messy, but it did nothing to hide his good looks. Well, that's the only redeeming quality he has left. He looked down at me and said flatly, "Yishia, is your face cramping?" I rubbed my face and forced a stiff smile. "I'm just cold." Clearly President Ku was born without a conscience. He nodded and reached out to take the documents from my hand. My foot. Perhaps my accusatory glare was too intense, because President Ku coughed into his fist and asked politely, "Want to come in for some hot water?" I should have refused, but I was so cold. Pretending not to notice his insincere politeness, I replied with a fake smile. "Sure. Thank you, President Ku." "Come in then." He stepped aside reluctantly to let me in. "Is hot cocoa okay?" After I sat down on the sofa, President Ku walked over in his slippers and asked. I nodded. Yes. He glanced at me, seemingly surprised by my audacity. While President Ku was in the kitchen making hot cocoa, I secretly admired his home, a 300-square-meter luxury apartment with a direct sea view from the balcony. Everything, from the extravagant chandelier to the Italian imported leather sofa I was sitting on, screamed one thing: expensive. How nice it must be for these evil capitalists to live in such luxury using our hard-earned money. If only I could live in a place like this someday. I counted on my fingers and realized I'd probably have to start working around the Southern Song dynasty to afford an apartment like this. Drink up. President Ku placed the mug on the coffee table and sat down on the other sofa. I quietly sipped the hot cocoa, stealing glances at President Ku. At the company, he always wore a suit and tie, buttoning his shirt all the way up even on the hottest days. With his gold-rimmed glasses, he looked every bit the sophisticated scoundrel. I had never seen him in loungewear, with his hair down and glasses off. He seemed years younger, almost carrying a hint of youthful charm. "Done staring?" President Ku said without looking up. I quickly averted my gaze, feeling awkward, and downed the hot cocoa in a few gulps. "Thank you, President Ku. I'll be on my way now." "Have a good rest." President Ku nodded. "I'll walk you out." Without waiting for me to refuse, he grabbed a coat from the rack and casually draped it over himself. I was a little flattered that the boss was personally seeing me out, so I followed closely behind him down the stairs. As soon as we stepped out of the elevator, I saw several people in full protective gear standing in the lobby. A sense of foreboding washed over me. When they saw us coming downstairs, they quickly raised their hands to stop us. A confirmed case has been reported in Building 7. Starting now, the building is under lockdown entry only, no exit. Please isolate at home. We'll provide supplies regularly. It was like a bolt from the blue. I turned to look at President Ku in shock. I had never seen such a flustered expression on his face before. The pandemic control staff urged us anxiously. President Ku and I stared at each other, unsure what to do. A minute later, he covered his face with his hand. "Sorry for dragging you into this. You'll have to stay at my place for now." I didn't move. He looked at me, puzzled. "What's wrong?" "Don't worry, there's a guest room." I hesitated for a moment before timidly looking up. "Does this count as paid leave during the quarantine?" Life is like a dream. 10 minutes ago, I was sitting here, calculating how long I'd have to work to afford a place like this. And now, I was actually going to live here. President Ku led me to the guest room. Though it was called a guest room, it was still more than half the size of my tiny apartment, with a partial sea view. A 2-meter by 2.5-meter bed was covered with a bedsheet. President Ku pointed to the wardrobe. "The blankets are inside. Help yourself. There's an ensuite bathroom over there." I nodded, and President Koo closed the door behind him. Get settled in first. Once I heard his footsteps fade away, I flopped onto the bed. The mattress was soft yet supportive, clearly high quality. Lying there, my feelings were complicated. 14 days of paid leave. Under any other circumstances, I'd be overjoyed. But spending those 14 days with my boss, well, let's just say it's like chocolate that tastes like crap. The bed at President Koo's place was so comfortable that I accidentally fell asleep while lost in thought. When I woke up, I found a down blanket draped over me. I got out of bed and tiptoed into the living room. I had slept soundly. It was only a little past 2 when I arrived. But now the sunset outside had painted half the sky in shades of pink and purple. President Koo sat by the window, the high bridge of his nose casting a shadow across his profile. I felt a bit embarrassed. Thank you, President Koo, for covering me with the blanket. President Koo turned around, his expression somewhat complicated. You. How come you snore in your sleep? I instantly felt like I could dig a 3-bedroom apartment right where I stood. I didn't need to stay here anymore. To make matters worse, my stomach suddenly growled. Gurgle, gurgle. Just as I wished the ground would swallow me whole, another growl echoed. This time, it wasn't me. I looked up to see a faint blush spreading behind President Koo's pale ears. He hesitated for a moment before asking, Can you cook? I can't cook. I can only eat. But there were only 2 of us in the house. If I didn't cook, President Koo would have to. If I made President Koo cook for me, I might as well be looking for trouble with a flashlight in a cesspool. I nodded stiffly. I can't, but I can try. President Koo looked at me skeptically before walking over and opening his double-door refrigerator. The fridge was completely empty. An awkward silence filled the room. Something even worse than being trapped at my boss's house was being trapped at my boss's house when there was no food. My stomach twisted with hunger. I hadn't eaten since noon, and I was truly starving. Just as I was on the verge of despair, I suddenly remembered the 2 packs of Liujo rice noodles in my bag. I had bought them on my way back from the supermarket. Planning to eat them later, I tentatively looked at President Koo. President Koo, have you ever tried Liujo rice noodles? He glanced at me. No, I don't like strongly scented foods. Oh. Would you mind if I ate Liujo rice noodles at your place? President Koo eventually agreed, albeit reluctantly. Even though his expression wasn't exactly pleasant, I skillfully boiled water and cooked the noodles, tossing in all the seasonings. Soon, a smell resembling a clogged sewer filled the air. President Koo sat on the sofa, his face pale as he covered his nose. After a while, he probably couldn't take it anymore and retreated into his room, closing the door behind him. I let out a dismissive snort. Guess he wasn't that hungry after all. Happily, I ladled the Liujo rice noodles into a large bowl and turned on the drama I'd been binge-watching lately. This brand was absolutely amazing, though a few bucks pricier than others. The flavor was absolutely authentic. Just as I was about to happily slurp my noodles, the bedroom door was flung open with a loud bang. President Koo's footsteps were heavy, his handsome face etched with suppressed frustration as he covered his nose and demanded, Could you hurry up and eat that? The smell is like a toilet exploded. I looked up with a pained smile. President Koo, it's scalding hot. Why don't you give it a try? It's like stinky tofu smells all but tastes amazing. No way. I'd rather starve than eat that stuff. I picked up a strand of noodles with my chopsticks, the translucent rice noodles glistening with savory broth. Just one bite. You're already surrounded by the smell anyway. It's really delicious. I heard President Koo's stomach rumble again. He swallowed hard, a flicker of hesitation crossing his face. Fine, just one bite. President Koo did indeed take just one bite. He grabbed another pair of chopsticks and picked up a strand from my bowl. One slurp later, nearly half my bowl was gone. My grip on my chopsticks tightened, and my expression darkened. President Koo glanced at me, somewhat awkwardly swallowing the noodles in his mouth. He wiped his lips. Sorry about that. My heart ached more than half my noodles were gone. I said nothing, picking up my bowl and moving to another spot to continue eating. President Koo sat across from me, clearing his throat but saying nothing. I pretended not to hear. How rude. I hate people who say they just want a taste but end up taking a huge bite. Much later, as I finished the noodles and lifted my bowl to drink the broth, President Koo finally spoke. His voice was slightly strained, almost timid. Is there any left? Could you cook another pack for me too? To make up for it. President Koo and I shared the last pack of Liujo rice noodles, splitting it 50-50. After a barely satisfying meal, we sat in the still fragrant living room. President Koo's expression was a mix of contentment and melancholy. What are we going to eat tomorrow? I should have stocked up earlier. I had no idea either, so I tried to console him. It's fine, maybe supplies will arrive tomorrow. He nodded. With nothing left to say, an awkward silence settled between us. Feeling uncomfortable, I stood up and headed back to my room to take a shower and call it an early night. Though President Koo's house lacked food, it was fully stocked with toiletries. I casually picked up a bottle of shampoo, its label covered in dense foreign text I couldn't read. It looked expensive. After a comfortably hot shower, I dried off with a brand new towel and prepared to go to bed. But just as I put the towel down, I realized a rather awkward problem. I hadn't brought any spare underwear. Early in the morning, President Koo and I sprawled on the sofa, our stomachs growling. Hunger made me bold enough to complain. President Koo, how come there's nothing in your house? President Koo replied weakly. The housekeeper usually buys groceries and cooks. She prefers fresh ingredients, so she buys them daily. My resentment toward the wealthy stirred once again. Damn rich people. Serves you right. I walked over and opened the window. President Koo watched me. What are you doing? I'm having some northwest wind for breakfast. I just posted in the residents' group chat. The property management said they'll deliver groceries by noon. Hang in there a little longer. And so, we lay on the sofa watching TV, struggling to pass the time. Residents of Lanzhou say their day begins with a bowl of beef noodles. In this city with over 1,000 noodle shops, 1 million bowls of noodles are consumed every day. I watched the screen, salivating at the sight of clear broth, white noodles, garnished with cilantro and beef. President Koo's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed. He stared at the TV. This is the first time I've ever craved noodles this badly. Noodles? More like pipe dreams. Who knew what would arrive at noon? President Koo turned to look at me. Yuxia, let's go out for noodles once we're out of lockdown. I nodded. Sure. But when will that be? President Koo was optimistic. Probably just 14 days. The outbreak isn't too severe around here. I hesitated for a moment. President Koo, about that. He looked at me, puzzled. I steeled myself and blurted out. Could you ask the property management to deliver a few pairs of underwear for me? President Koo's mouth fell open slightly as he stared at me in shock. His fair skin flushed visibly red. Ah! I lowered my head, my face burning, and said nothing. It wasn't that I wanted to trouble the property management, but I couldn't just go commando all the time. A man and a woman alone together, that would be way too awkward. Silence. Suffocating silence. After a while, President Koo's voice came, muffled and indistinct. What size do you wear? The property management was highly efficient. Shortly after noon, they delivered a large bundle of vegetables, fruits, rice, noodles, and meat, and 3 pairs of ladies' underwear. President Koo looked at the 3 small packages as if they were burning hot and tossed them to me. Here's what you wanted. I gave him an exasperated glance. So dramatic. What's the big deal? Doesn't he wear underwear too? With everything delivered, President Koo and I sat at the dining table, staring at each other. Ahem. He gestured with his eyes, hinting that I should start cooking. I turned my head away, pretending not to understand. Ahem. You sure? I looked up at him. Go cook. I looked at President Koo earnestly. President Koo, I'm not being lazy. It's just that these ingredients are too precious. I'm afraid I'll ruin them. Making me work like a beast of burden is one thing, but now you want me to be a free nanny. Dream on. Today I'm going to turn the tables and make the boss work for me. President Koo rolled his eyes at me, his expression complex, as if he were regretting ever hiring me. After a stalemate, he finally stood up reluctantly. You can at least wash the vegetables, right? Let's make shredded potatoes with vinegar sauce. I pulled up a small stool and sat in the kitchen, peeling potatoes. President Koo rolled up his sleeves and produced an apron from somewhere. Truly, the poorly skilled student always has the best tools. He looked like he knew what he was doing. He tied a neat bow behind his back and took the peeled potatoes from me to start shredding them. President Koo handled the potato as if it were a bomb. Frowning, he hunched over and carefully held the potato, contemplating and measuring before making the first cut. Just seeing his posture, I had a bad feeling about this. Noticing my gaze, President Koo turned slightly, shielding the potato from view. Keep washing the vegetables. The sound of the knife hitting the cutting board was erratic, sometimes light, sometimes heavy. President Koo's intense focus was contagious, and soon I was nervous too. If he cuts off a finger, getting medical help won't be easy right now. I watched his busy back with concern. After over 20 minutes, just as my stomach growled again, President Koo turned away, embarrassed. Let's not make shredded potatoes today. Let's make potato chunks with vinegar sauce instead. Vinegar fried potato chunks. Seriously? But since I wasn't doing the work, I couldn't complain. I just nodded and tried to sound encouraging. That works too. After all, whatever goes in comes out looking the same anyway. President Koo shot me a sidelong glance. I'm starting to regret asking you to deliver those documents. You think I don't regret it? Do I want to be here eating your lousy vinegar-fried potato chunks? True to his role as a boss, President Koo treated cooking like a work assignment, ordering me around to fetch vinegar, then salt. Hey, it's burning. Quick, add some water. I scurried around the kitchen like a spinning top, handing him a bowl of water. President Koo poured the water into the pan with a splash, instantly submerging the potatoes. Great. Looks like we won't be having vinegar-fried potato chunks either. Potato soup it is then. A cloud of vinegar-scented steam rose in the kitchen. President Koo's eyes lit up. Yes, that's the smell. By the time we sat down at the dining table, an hour had passed. At the large table, President Koo and I sat at opposite ends. In the middle sat a plate of semi-soupy potato chunks. President Koo picked up his phone and snapped several pictures of the potatoes, looking rather pleased. This is my first time cooking. I stared at the plate of half-raw, half-cooked potato chunks in front of me. They were uneven in shape and size, soaking in the broth like they were taking a hot spring bath. I really didn't understand what President Koo was so proud of. President Koo lifted his thin eyelids and gestured toward me with his chin. Try it. How is it? I felt like this dish possessed a magical power, the ability to make you feel full just by looking at it. But if I dared to embarrass the boss, my paid leave might turn into indefinite unpaid leave. I picked up a potato chunk, took a deep breath and put it in my mouth. Sour. Really damn sour. Like they'd killed the vinegar seller. Besides the sourness, there was no other flavor. Not enough salt. Too much water. After chewing the potato chunk what felt like 81 times, I forced a smile. Delicious. Absolutely delicious. The flavor is spot on. A faint smile tugged at President Koo's lips. Smart people pick things up quickly. I'll be able to make shredded potatoes tomorrow. He reached out with his chopsticks and picked up a potato chunk. Then his expression began to shift, much like those live streamers on Douyin selling blacker type of plum. His features twisted together as he chewed with difficulty, then closed his eyes and swallowed. Delicious. Truly delicious. I'm full. You share. The rest is all yours. He pushed the plate toward me. I suspect my boss is trying to eliminate me with a plate of potatoes. Just as I stared at the potatoes in despair, President Koo suddenly chuckled. I looked up at him. The light from the crystal chandelier sprinkled across his face. His eyelids held a faint pink hue, and his eyes shimmered with amusement. This was a side of President Koo I had never seen before. I stared at him, momentarily stunned. President Koo's slender fingers held the chopsticks as he looked at me and said, "Just kidding. If I poison you, wouldn't I be stuck here alone in quarantine? Living with my boss isn't as unbearable as I thought. Aside from his questionable cooking skills, this boss isn't too bad. Days without work are truly blissful." With nothing better to do, I started growing garlic sprouts on the balcony. President Koo curiously peeked over my shoulder. "What are you doing?" I placed the garlic cloves in shallow water. "I'm growing garlic sprouts." "Garlic sprouts? Are they edible?" I turned my head and shot him a look. Could you stop asking such pointless questions? Hey. President Koo reached out and pressed his hand on my head. You've got some nerve. Don't you want to keep your job when we go back? I shook his hand off. Need more water. Go fetch some for me. Footsteps retreated behind me, then returned shortly after. Here. I poured the water over the garlic roots and clapped my hands. That's it. In 7 to 10 days, we'll have fresh garlic sprouts. President Koo chuckled. We'll probably be out of lockdown by then. Can't let this go to waste. Take them with you as a local specialty. Fine. Just don't eat any when I make stir-fried garlic sprouts with pork, I retorted unhappily, squatting to glare at him. You, she are. Do you have any conscience? President Koo raised an eyebrow, the corner of his eyes lifting slightly. Have you cooked a single meal these past few days? Who's been cooking every meal? Boss cooking for you, does that sound right to you? Feeling a bit guilty, I flashed an ingratiating smile. The capable ones do more work. As expected of the boss, even your cooking is better than others. A smirk tugged at President Koo's lips. That's more like it. I really think President Koo might have been driven a little crazy by the quarantine. He wasn't like this before. At the company I didn't see him often. But back then, he was always dressed in a black suit, serious and unsmiling. His bangs neatly combed back, the epitome of a business elite. Now, his biggest daily hobby was studying recipes, learning to cook from Douyin, and making me review his dishes every time he finished. My reviews went from not even a dog would eat this to passable. He's improved incredibly fast. I placed the small pot of garlic on the sunniest spot of the large terrace. There. We'll have an extra dish in 10 days. President Koo let out a mocking laugh. The supplies we'd been receiving lately included a lot of potatoes, so we'd been eating them in every possible way. Steamed potatoes, roasted potatoes, stir-fried potatoes, potato pancakes. I felt like I was turning into a potato myself. After finishing President Koo's potato stew with meat, we sat on the sofa watching TV. I was sipping hot cocoa while watching Criminal Minds when President Koo suddenly walked over and grabbed the remote. There's a game tonight. I want to watch it. A game? I frowned. How boring. Let's watch the drama. No way. It's the finals tonight. I have to watch it live. We agreed to take turns. Why are you going back on your word? Who's going back on their word? It's Sunday. We should decide with rock, paper, scissors. President Koo switched to the sports channel. Sprawling on the sofa in his pajamas with his legs spread wide. His house had more than one TV, but we both preferred watching from the sofa. We'd agreed earlier. I'd get Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. He'd get Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And Sundays would be decided by rock, paper, scissors. President Koo gave me an exasperated look. What's so interesting about all that gore? You Shia, are you even a woman? I sneered at him. What's so fun about a bunch of people fighting over one ball? Kyan, are you even a man? Is that the same thing? No, I'm watching the game tonight. I reached for the remote. We agreed on rock, paper, scissors. Why are you being unreasonable? Kuyan held the remote high above his head. Young lady, I advise you to know your place and not push your luck. He was a head taller than me, standing on the sofa with the remote almost touching the ceiling. Frustrated, I snapped. Put it down. Are you trying to hang it upstairs? Kuyan grinned, a mischievous glint in his eyes. If you're so capable, come get it yourself. If I weren't afraid of damaging the 210,000 yuan leather sofa, I'd have taught him a lesson. A wise woman doesn't fight a man. I huffed and climbed off the sofa. You're going back on your word. Fine. I won't watch. Enjoy it yourself. Seeing I was genuinely upset, a flicker of panic crossed Kuyan's face. Hey, can't you take a joke? All right. Ooh, I give up, he grumbled, ruffling his hair in annoyance before tossing the remote to me. Here. Watch whatever you want. Just don't come crying about nightmares later. I turned around with a triumphant smile. President Koo still a bit green, huh? Learn from me. The waters here are too deep, you can't handle them. Damn it. He shot me a glare, but a faint smile played on his lips. Go ahead, watch. I'll watch with you. I've been rewatching Criminal Minds for half a year. At first, the gore and dismembered bodies made me uneasy. But now, I could watch it while eating. Yan, however, couldn't. He stared at the screen as if facing a mortal enemy, squinting slightly, sitting ramrod straight, and clutching a cushion to his chest. I teased him. The great President Ku isn't scared of this kind of show, is he? Yan snorted. Bullshit. I glanced at him but said nothing. By 11:30 p.m., my eyelids were growing heavy. Yan's eyes were wide as saucers, fixed warily on the screen. I rubbed my eyes. I'm sleepy. Heading to bed. Don't call me for breakfast tomorrow, I'm sleeping in. Yan nodded and turned off the TV. I'm going to bed too. Seeing his eagerness, I smirked. You won't be too scared to sleep, will you? If you're really scared, you can come sleep in my room. Really? His eyes lit up. I nodded. The bathroom is pretty spacious. Should fit you. He shot me a look. Humph, no need. I didn't sleep well that night, mainly because the floor heating was cranked up too high, and I woke up parched. After hesitating for a while, I forced my eyes open and decided to get some water. The room was pitch black, and I couldn't be bothered to turn on the lights, relying on memory to navigate to the living room. Suddenly, I heard faint, stealthy footsteps in the living room. Instantly, cold sweat broke out on my back. My heart pounded wildly as I slowly peeked around the corner. A dark figure was squatting in the living room, rummaging through cabinets. Crap, it really is a thief. Panic and fear surged through me. I wanted to rush back to get Yan, but as I turned, I accidentally kicked the corner of the wall, making a soft noise. The figure in the living room froze, its movements abruptly stopping. Trembling with fear, my feet felt rooted to the spot. As the dark figure slowly approached, a sudden burst of courage welled up inside me. There's a grown man in the house, I'm not fighting alone. I aimed for the most vulnerable spot on a man I had to strike decisively. Everything was set. The moment the dark figure stepped in front of me, I kicked hard between its legs and shouted, "Critical strike to the nuts!" Holy shit! A pained cry erupted as the figure doubled over. I froze. That voice sounded like Yan's. All the lights in the living room were switched on, illuminating every detail. Yan lay curled on the sofa, his face pale, sweating and clutching his stomach. He turned his head stiffly, pain evident in his expression. "You sure? What's wrong with you?" That was a death blow to my brother. How ruthless. Guiltily, I sat upright with my hands on my knees. How was I supposed to know it was you? You could have said something. Wouldn't he be scared by someone sneaking around in the middle of the night without a word? We're under lockdown. Lockdown? Who in their right mind would break in now? Is your brain just for decoration? Yan shouted in frustration. I hung my head, knowing I was in the wrong. His face twisted in pain. What were you doing up in the middle of the night? I stole a glance at him. Thirsty. Came down for water. And you? Yan's expression stiffened, and he didn't answer. I scanned the floor and spotted a small white nightlight lying where I delivered the critical strike. No way. No way. Couldn't it really have been so scared that he had to get up in the middle of the night to find a nightlight? Could he? I wanted to laugh out loud, but given the brutal physical attack I just inflicted, I had to stifle it. The critical strike was indeed critical. Yan remained curled on the sofa for a long time, unable to recover. Worried I might have caused irreversible damage, I suggested cautiously, "Maybe we should go to the hospital." "And say what?" Yan glared at me indignantly. "How could I ever show my face at the company again? But if we don't go, I'm afraid you might not be a man anymore." "It's fine." Yan gritted his teeth, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I'm tough, I'll survive. Men, even when their whole body is weak, their mouths stay hard." I stayed with him on the sofa for an hour until a hint of color finally returned to Yan's face. "Should be okay now." I nodded. "Let's get some rest then." Yan glanced at me, hesitating. "What's wrong?" He shook his head. "Nothing. After staying up so late, I was genuinely exhausted." I yawned and headed to my room to sleep. The moment my head hit the pillow, there was a knock on the door. Irritated, I opened the door. "What now? Is your brother acting up again?" No. Kuyan stood outside, holding a pillow, barefoot. I'm a little scared. Can I sleep with you? I stared at Kuyan in silence. Knocking on a female subordinate's door in the middle of the night, asking to sleep together. Is that appropriate? Kuyan pursed his lips and covered my eyes with his hand. Why are you looking at me like that? If you hadn't insisted on watching that gory show, would I have gone looking for a nightlight? If I hadn't gone looking for a nightlight, would I have almost been castrated by you? You have to take responsibility. Otherwise what? Otherwise you'll get on your knees and beg me. Kuyan glared at me fiercely. Otherwise I'll assign you to clean toilets when we get back. I sighed. Fine, come in. But I'm not sharing a blanket with you. Get your own. Kuyan said nothing. Puzzled, I turned to look at him. Don't push your luck. I'm not sharing a blanket with you. Who the hell wants to share a blanket with you? In the dim light, Kuyan's face flushed red. The top 2 buttons of his shirt were undone, revealing his prominent collarbone, delicately exposed and half hidden. Suddenly, I felt a twinge of regret. I wasn't worried about Kuyan, I was worried about myself. Lust is a dangerous thing, I'm afraid I might not be able to control myself. Kuyan brought his blanket and pillows, awkwardly placing them on the bed. I asked curiously, why 2 pillows? I stared at Kuyan in silence. Knocking on a female subordinate's door in the middle of the night, asking to sleep together. Is that appropriate? Kuyan pursed his lips and covered my eyes with his hand. Why are you looking at me like that? If you hadn't insisted on watching that gory show, would I have gone looking for a nightlight? If I hadn't gone looking for a nightlight, would I have almost been castrated by you? You have to take responsibility. Otherwise what? Otherwise, you'll get on your knees and beg me. Kuyan glared at me fiercely. Otherwise, I'll assign you to clean toilets when we get back. I sighed. Fine, come in. But I'm not sharing a blanket with you. Get your own. Kuyan said nothing. Puzzled, I turned to look at him. Don't push your luck. I'm not sharing a blanket with you. Who the hell wants to share a blanket with you? In the dim light, Kuyan's face flushed red. The top 2 buttons of his shirt were undone, revealing his prominent collarbone, delicately exposed and half hidden. Suddenly, I felt a twinge of regret. I wasn't worried about Kuyan, I was worried about myself. Lust is a dangerous thing, I'm afraid I might not be able to control myself. I stared at Kuyan in silence. Knocking on a female subordinate's door in the middle of the night to ask to sleep together. Is that appropriate? Kuyan pursed his lips and covered my eyes with his hand. Why are you looking at me like that? If you hadn't insisted on watching that gory show, would I have been looking for a nightlight? If I hadn't been looking for a nightlight, would I have almost been castrated by you? You have to take responsibility. Otherwise what? Otherwise, you'll get on your knees and beg me. Kuyan glared at me fiercely. Otherwise, I'll assign you to clean toilets when we get back. I sighed. Fine, come in. But I'm not sharing a blanket with you. Get your own. Kuyan said nothing. Puzzled, I turned to look at him. Don't push your luck. I'm not sharing a blanket with you. Who the hell wants to share a blanket with you? In the dim light, Kuyan's face flushed red. The top 2 buttons of his shirt were undone, revealing his prominent collarbone, delicately exposed and half hidden. Suddenly, I felt a twinge of regret. I wasn't worried about Kuyan, I was worried about myself. Lust is a dangerous thing. I'm afraid I might not be able to control myself. Kuyan brought his blanket and pillows, awkwardly placing them on the bed. I asked curiously, why 2 pillows? He lowered his head and placed the pillows in the middle of the bed, warning, this is the demarcation line. Neither of us is allowed to cross it. Is this guy insane? I let out a cold laugh, climbed into bed, and spread myself into a big shape, pushing the pillows aside with my body. Kuyan frowned. You're crossing the line. How am I supposed to sleep like this? I closed my eyes. Sleep however you want. Find a gap. After a moment's hesitation, Kuyan reluctantly curled up under my arm, finding a small space to lie down. He was tall and his legs hung off the edge of the bed. I pretended not to notice. Once I was the beast of burden. Now, I've made my boss the beast of burden. So satisfying. When I woke up again, I hadn't expected it to still be dark outside. Recalling the exhilarating dream I'd just had, I suddenly felt ashamed. Have I been deprived of male company for too long? How could I have such a dream, while just innocently sharing a bed? Disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful. But soon I realized it wasn't my fault. From somewhere, the sound of an intense battle erupted, loud enough to make it seem like the two people were going at it right inside the house. What on earth is going on? I was baffled. I quickly nudged Kuyan, half of whose body was dangling off the bed. Wake up! What the heck is happening? Kuyan grudgingly opened his eyes. In the light of his phone screen, I saw his face instantly flush crimson the moment he saw me. He didn't also. Kuyan quickly snapped out of it, his face reddening further as he exclaimed urgently, "What's going on here? The soundproofing can't be this bad." He abruptly threw off the blanket and got out of bed as if I were chasing him. Ooh, this night's sleep is completely ruined. I sighed in resignation and followed him out to investigate. As soon as we entered the living room, I saw the TV was on, with two Western actors engaged in an intense battle. I stared blankly at Kuyan. Why is your TV on in the middle of the night? Is this a late-night entertainment program? Kuyan's face was beet red, as if blood were about to drip from it. I don't know. This has never happened before. A supernatural event. A horny ghost manifesting at midnight. Suddenly, a possibility occurred to me. We might not have turned off the TV before going to sleep. Could it be that the neighbor upstairs accidentally cast to the wrong screen? In the middle of the night, my male boss and I had just gotten out of the same bed, and were standing in the living room in our pajamas, watching a battle scene on TV. It was both surreal and awkward. I stood there, wanting to laugh but feeling too embarrassed. Kuyan was probably even more embarrassed than me. The loud sounds filled the entire living room as he frantically searched for the remote. Where's the remote? Did you turn off the TV? I rolled my eyes. You were the one who turned it off, remember? He crouched and searched around the carpet but couldn't find it. In desperation, he finally yanked the TV plug from the socket. The living room finally fell silent. Yet the atmosphere seemed even more awkward. For some reason, I suddenly felt my face grow hot and lowered my head without a word. Kuyan also turned away, the tips of his ears turning pink. In the vast living room, we stood there dumbly, silently digging at the metaphorical mansion beneath our feet. After a pause, he took out his phone and angrily typed in the residents' group chat. Who watching porn at this hour and accidentally cast it to my TV? Soon, a reply came from upstairs. So that Wyatt said the connection was successful, but nothing happened. You're welcome, bro. Kuyan was furious. Doing this in the middle of the night, are you sick? Upstairs. If I did it during the day, that would be sick, wouldn't it? Sorry, bro. It's just too boring being locked down. To make it up to you, I'll DM you the website. No thanks. Ahem, I glanced at Kuyan. Well, that clears that up. Let's go back to sleep. Kuyan looked at me awkwardly, then turned and headed to the bathroom. You go ahead. I need to use the restroom. Oh, okay. I didn't say more and went back to bed. The night had been too eventful, and sleepiness had completely vanished. Lying in bed, I stared wide-eyed at the ceiling, feeling somewhat agitated. Should I kick Kuyan out to sleep in his own room? I couldn't shake the feeling that our pure superior-subordinate relationship was about to change if this continued. Kuyan spent what felt like dozens of minutes in the bathroom. Just as I was starting to feel a hint of drowsiness again, he opened the door and came back to bed. As if possessed, I closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. The fresh scent of verbena mixed with a faint hint of moisture filled the room. Just as I suspected, he'd taken a shower. Kuyan tiptoed to his pillow. I could feel him turning his head to look at me. After a moment, he quietly turned away, but his hand gently brushed against mine, which was exposed outside the blanket. It felt slightly cool. Seeing that I didn't react, Kuyan cautiously took my hand in his and let out a soft sigh. Soon, steady breathing came from beside me. He'd fallen asleep. But, as I felt his hand holding mine, initially cool and slightly damp from the shower, now growing warm from being held for too long, that warmth traveled up my arm and settled in my heart. The bedroom window was slightly ajar, and the cool night breeze rustled the sheer curtains. The scent of damp shower gel gradually filled the room. The down blanket was fluffy and soft, and the floor heating made me feel uncomfortably warm. In the silent darkness, my uncontrollably pounding heart felt like a drum. Damn, what does he mean by this? Why is he secretly holding my hand while I'm asleep? Things seem to be spiraling out of control. I don't remember when I fell asleep. Kuyan's hand felt like a branding iron, so hot it kept me awake. Yet he slept so soundly, holding my hand all night without letting go. I only remember that before I drifted off, the horizon was already glowing with the first light of dawn. After what felt like an eternity, I finally managed to pry my eyelids open. Before me was a fair chin with a faint stubble shadow, leading down a slender neck to a prominent Adam's apple. I tried to move but found myself pinned by Kuyan's arm. The demarcation line pillow from before bed was nowhere to be seen, and a white down blanket lay crumpled on the floor. At some point, Kuyan and I had ended up under the same blanket. Pulling back the covers, I saw that Kuyan's pajama top had ridden up at some point, revealing his firm, sexy ABs. I swallowed hard, counting them with my eyes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What are you doing? I'm counting how many abs you have. 6. I stiffly looked up. Kuyan lowered his lashes to gaze at me. The morning light illuminated his face, making his handsomeness overwhelmingly striking at that moment. You Shia, how could you take advantage of me while I was asleep? I stared at him blankly. Kuyan kept his arm around my waist and gestured with his chin toward the pillow and blanket on the floor. Did you sneak into my blanket while I was asleep? My foggy mind cleared, and I tried to sit up indignantly. Who was it that secretly held my hand last night? Kuyan's face flushed, and he tightened his arm, preventing me from getting up. You were awake. I lowered my head awkwardly. How did we get to this point? This is all moving way too fast. Kuyan's Adam's apple bobbed. He paused for a moment before speaking in a slightly hoarse voice. Look up. I lifted my head as he gently cupped my chin. We're both adults. Honestly, I'd mentally prepared myself when I let him in last night. With Kuyan looking like this, I'd be the one taking advantage of him. It's a win either way. But now, I suddenly felt nervous, my face burning as if steam were about to rise. Not good, this is the feeling of falling for someone. He lowered his eyelids and slowly leaned in. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it would leap out of my throat. I couldn't help but close my eyes. Just before our lips were about to meet, the doorbell suddenly rang. The chime echoed loudly through the living room. My eyes snapped open and I pulled back, my face flushed bright red. Kuyan's movement halted. Annoyance flashed across his face. Who the hell is it at this hour? He got out of bed with visible irritation and went to answer the intercom. Hello? Hi. This is the property management. We're here to deliver supplies. All right, thank you. Sorry for the trouble. It wasn't actually morning by the time we got up. It was already afternoon. My stomach growled with hunger as Kuyan skillfully took the groceries into the kitchen. He'd been learning from Doyin lately and was doing pretty well. Many dishes were now within his grasp, and he could even make slightly thicker shredded potatoes with vinegar. The flustered little interlude quickly passed, and neither Kuyan nor I mentioned it again. But we both knew something had changed. I sat on the sofa sipping tea with a tinge of melancholy. Lately I'd been feeling a bit restless, so tea helped cool me down. I thought I'd climb the ladder with my talent, but in the end, it seems my looks are what got me there. Sigh. Kuyan peeked out from the kitchen, wearing an apron. We have beef today. How do you want it? I thought for a moment and smacked my lips. Stir-fried is fine, or beef soup. You decide. Kuyan nodded and went back inside. I secretly rejoiced. Who would have thought I'd ever get to sit back while my boss worked and tell him, you decide? Not long after, Kuyan came out carrying a large bowl. Beef and tomato soup. Go wash your hands and eat. I came out of the bathroom and sat at the dining table. My phone on the table buzzed with a notification. I opened it. It was a notice in the company group chat. From Kuyan. Submit your weekly work summaries this week. Ugh, so annoying. This is my least favorite task. But Kuyan sends this every month and demands thorough reflection. Who has the patience to sort through all the daily work? Kuyan sat across from me. seriously scrolling through the group chat messages. The beauty that had made my heart flutter suddenly felt utterly detestable. Boldly, I provoked him. President Koo, where should I start my summary? From last night. He raised his head, a teasing glint in his eyes. Don't summarize yet. The work isn't finished. Summarize after achieving significant results. My face flushed, counting on my fingers. Today was already the 13th day. I paused. Didn't that mean we'd be out of lockdown tomorrow? No wonder Kuyan suddenly asked for work summaries. I'm not quite ready to leave yet. We're getting out tomorrow. Where am I supposed to get significant work results? This jerk. He doesn't seem bothered at all. Is he secretly eager for me to leave? A bit unhappy, I asked. So when should I leave tomorrow? Leave? Kuyan looked puzzled. Where are you going? Home. It's been 14 days. The lockdown should be over. He put down his phone and frowned at me. You're that eager to leave? I've been serving you hand and foot every day. Wasn't that enough? Without a proper reason, what identity do I have to stay here? Just as I was about to speak, Kuyan said calmly, even if you want to leave, you can't. Another confirmed case popped up. You'll have to stay here for another 14 days. I secretly rejoiced, but I pretended to complain. Another 14 days? Kuyan slammed his chopsticks down. What? The boss serving you personally, isn't that a great fortune? Still not satisfied? When you go home, will there be a handsome guy sleeping with you at night? I scoffed and replied in a mockingly sweet tone. As if I care. I wonder who it was that came knocking on my door in the middle of the night, hugging a pillow and pitifully begging. I'm so scared to sleep alone. Please sleep with me. Kuyan's expression shifted, but he stubbornly insisted. I was worried you were scared. You're really biting the hand that feeds you, ungrateful. I couldn't be bothered to argue with a man in denial and lowered my head to drink the soup. Not bad, actually. The beef soup was pretty decent, with a few garlic sprouts floating in it. Where did the garlic sprouts come from? I'd neglected the garlic I planted earlier. They probably died long ago. Kyung glanced at me. Of course I took care of them. If I waited for you, we wouldn't even get a whiff of garlic, let alone sprouts. I nodded. Impressive. You're getting more and more domestic. Now you're truly presentable in the hall and capable in the kitchen. So amazing. Kuyan didn't reply. Puzzled, I looked up and saw him pressing his lips together, unable to hide the smile at the corners of his mouth. What are you so happy about? You didn't even look this pleased when the company landed that huge contract. Always putting on a stern face and making us work overtime every day. I stared at Kuyan seriously. Who are you really? Did you possess President Koo's body? Where's the real President Koo? Kuyan rolled his eyes at me, his smile lingering. Just eat. Even beef can't shut you up. After the meal, Kuyan told me to wash the dishes. I showed him my phone. Look, my period is due in 3 days. I can't touch cold water. To my surprise, he didn't argue. Instead, he seriously checked my tracking app. Then we should ask the property management to deliver some supplies. Go sit on the sofa. I'll wash the dishes. With that, he tied on the apron and carried the dishes into the kitchen. It was hard to connect the back of this man in a floral apron and fuzzy slippers with the image of someone in a tailored suit, polished leather shoes, and an imposing demeanor. I happily sprawled on the sofa, idly flipping through channels. Outside, the sky had already darkened. Winter nights always arrived early. Wrapped in a fleece blanket, I lounged on the chaise. I'd gotten a bit tired of watching dramas lately. What else could I watch? After washing the dishes, Kuyan brought out a plate of cherry tomatoes and handed me a glass of warm water. Drink more hot water. I couldn't help but laugh. Thank you, President Koo. He lifted my blanket. Move over a bit. There are so many other spots on the sofa. Why do you have to squeeze in with me? Kuyan stubbornly squeezed in beside me, wrapping an arm around me from behind. The fresh scent of laundry detergent lingered faintly on his clothes. It's warmer here. The other side is too cold. Bullshit. He's practically radiating heat like a furnace. I didn't call him out. Honestly, Kuyan's warmth was too comforting. I leaned halfway into his embrace, feeling his rapid heartbeat. You little faker. You look calm on the surface, but your heart is pounding like crazy. What do you want to watch? I handed him the remote. Q-Yan flipped through a few channels. Let's watch a movie. We can go to bed right after. He browsed a few options and finally selected one. The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds seems pretty good. I didn't object and nodded, leaning against him. The movie was a bit dated but still hilarious, about a female boss forcing her male subordinate into a fake marriage. When the female boss and male subordinate accidentally collided naked, I choked on my water. Cough, cough. I awkwardly averted my eyes, feeling a bit embarrassed. It was like watching kissing scenes with my parents as a kid. I always had to change the subject. Q-Yan covered my face with his hand. Kids shouldn't watch this kind of thing. I pushed his hand away. Dad was born in 97. He chuckled. Dad was born in 93. Old man. What's there to be proud of? I leaned back further, feeling Q-Yan's heartbeat quicken. What a coincidence. This is also a boss-subordinate love story. Q-Yan's voice took on a teasing edge. Also, what other boss-subordinate stories are there? My face flushed, and I ignored him. Tell me. He pinched my cheek, his arm tightening around my waist from behind. Who are you talking about? Pressed close together, the searing heat from Q-Yan's body seeped through our thin clothes, making my heart flutter nervously. Embarrassed and annoyed, I pushed him hard. Aren't you annoying? Caught off guard, Q-Yan's head hit the wall. He let out a muffled groan and slumped to the side, motionless. Panicked, I hurriedly shook him. Q-Yan, are you okay? Did I accidentally kill him? Q-Yan remained still, his head lowered and eyes closed. Frantically, I climbed off him to check his head. Just as I leaned in close to his face, his eyes suddenly flew open. I froze. Before I could react, his arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me forcefully into his embrace. I stared at him blankly. On the laser TV screen, the male and female leads were passionately kissing. An ambiguous atmosphere spilled from the screen, filling the entire room. Q-Yan's eyes reflected a strange brilliance, while the side of his tall nose bridge remained shadowed. His lips held a faint cherry-pink hue, complementing his thin eyelids with a cool, detached air. Only then did I notice Q-Yan had put on his gold-rimmed glasses at some point, the thin frames exuding a metallic chill. He raised an eyebrow slightly, reverting to that sophisticated scoundrel look. Q-Yan lowered his lashes, gazing at my lips. Pinned tightly by his arm, I couldn't move. His other hand lifted my chin. The scent of verbena made me feel a little intoxicated. My mind felt like it was about to boil over. All I could do was wait stiffly for his touch. I opened my eyes in confusion. On the TV, the Western couple from yesterday was back. Even more intense than yesterday. Q-Yan's expression was beyond terrible, darker than the bottom of a pot. He grabbed his phone and yelled, "I'll fuck your ancestors. You cast it to my TV again." I sighed inwardly, both annoyed and amused. Q-Yan might be cursed. Just as I was about to get up and go to sleep, Q-Yan suddenly grabbed me and yanked me back forcefully. The momentum breaks after the first attempt, weakens after the second, and exhausts after the third. I won't let it exhaust. In the dimly lit darkness, his hand pressed against the back of my head as he kissed me fiercely. A cool night breeze blew in from behind, but Q-Yan in front of me was burning hot all over. My heart skipped a beat in the shiver between cold and heat, lost in his fierce intensity. All the gentleness these past days was an illusion. Deep down, this man was a conqueror, a plunderer. Q-Yan was very unhappy when I kicked him out that night. He pressed a hand against the door, preventing me from closing it. What, was my technique not good enough? Use and discard, is your heart made of iron? How can you be so heartless? Let me in. No. I pushed against the door. Go sleep in your own room. Q-Yan put on a hurt expression. You don't trust me that much. I'll just sleep under the blanket. I promise I won't touch you. I chuckled. If men were reliable, pigs could climb trees. Out. Seeing I wasn't buying it, Q-Yan switched to a pitiful look. I'm scared. I don't dare sleep alone. I slammed the door shut and locked it. If you're scared, go hug your nightlight. Knock, knock, knock. Ku Yan pounded on the door frantically. Yushia, if you don't let the boss take advantage, I'll fire you when we get back. I'll assign you to clean toilets in Manjuli. A blustering, all-bark no-bite man. I've got him figured out. Ignoring him, I climbed into bed and went to sleep. The next morning, I stepped out and didn't smell breakfast. Ku Yan wasn't in the living room either. Puzzled, I knocked on Ku Yan's door. Come in. The floor-to-ceiling window in the master bedroom was tightly curtained, leaving the room in darkness. On the large double bed, Ku Yan lay half-covered by a grey-down blanket, revealing his muscular arm. I frowned at him. Why aren't you cooking? I'm hungry. TCH. He glanced at me and sneered. You won't let me sleep, yet you still want me to cook. Yushia, I think you're more suited to be the boss than I am. At least I give you empty promises. You're not even giving the horse grass, yet you want it to run like hell. Jerk. So full of crap. An idea struck me. I clutched my stomach weakly. My stomach hurts. My period must be coming soon. Ku Yan's expression stiffened. Faking it. Keep faking it. I sat weakly on the bed. Hunger makes it hurt even more. You really are my damn ancestor. Ku Yan sat up fiercely and pointed to his cheek. Kiss me, and I'll be your beast of burden. A kiss is just a kiss. It won't cost me a limb. I leaned over and gave him a loud smack on the cheek. Ku Yan wrapped his arms around me, not letting go. As we tussled, his video call suddenly rang. Ku Yan held me and was about to answer. I quickly pushed him aside, but it was too late. A woman's scream came through the video call. Ku Yan, were you just hugging a woman? I glanced at the phone screen, a woman with big, wavy curls. Ku Yan's sister. Ku Yan denied it. No, you're seeing things. Bullshit, you little brat. You think I'm old and blind? His sister sounds fierce. Ku Yan's family seemed really well off. In families like his, wouldn't they expect him to marry someone of similar status? I suddenly felt unsure. Just as I was about to speak to Ku Yan, he smiled at me and said to the screen, She's shy. Don't scare her off. Wow, no wonder you stubbornly refused all the blind dates I arranged. You little jerk, you've been playing me. Wait till lockdown lifts, I'll rip your head off. But she quickly caught herself, her voice shifting awkwardly. Is the girl still listening? Auntie isn't usually like this. Don't be scared. Auntie loves young girls the most. Come over for dinner after lockdown lifts. Go to their house to watch Ku Yan get his head ripped off. Ku Yan sighed helplessly. She heard everything. If you scare my wife to be away, you'll have to make it up to me. Don't talk like that, you little rascal. Mom is the gentlest. Go on, get along well with your future daughter-in-law. Do more chores, don't be as lazy as you are at home. Hehe. Okay, Mum won't bother you anymore. Bye. I watched Ku Yan hang up, feeling my face heat up. Your mom? She sounds so young. I thought it was your sister. He extended a hand. Save those words for when you meet my mom. She'd be grinning from ear to ear. 28 days passed in a flash. 4 weeks felt incredibly long. His cooking skills underwent a dramatic transformation during those 28 days. From not even knowing how to chop potatoes at the start, he could now make multiple potato dishes. The tender green garlic sprouts on the balcony had already been harvested twice. The guy upstairs eventually added Ku Yan and sent him the website link. Less than a month, yet it felt as short as an instant. Just a few kisses, a few hugs, and a relationship neither of us had officially confirmed. I came with only a document. I left with nothing. Ku Yan's face was stormy. Why do you have to leave? Wasn't staying here comfortable? I looked at him and forced a smile. It was very comfortable, but I can't get my rent back for my own place. It'd be a waste not to live there. He sneered, looking at me mockingly. Excuses. You see, you're truly heartless. I sat by the entrance, looking up at him. Ku Yan was really good-looking, the kind of good-looking that made it hard to look away, even when he was angry. His faintly pink eyelids, upward slanting eyes, he carried an air of affectionate detachment. Glancing around the living room, I remembered how we'd squeezed together on that sofa, watching TV, hugging, kissing. We'd even shared a bed, though only for one night, and an awkward one at that. In my heart, I held unspoken feelings, and I believed he did too. But how much of his affection for me was real? I didn't know. I hadn't even confessed myself, yet I hoped he'd seriously tell me. He liked me. I waved nonchalantly. I'm off. Don't miss me so much you can't sleep tonight. With that, I turned and stepped into the elevator. I could feel Kuyan's gaze on my back, but he didn't offer to see me out or stop me. A pang of sadness hit me. Once I stepped out that door, it felt like all the joy from before was just bubbles, quickly vanishing. Kuyan didn't contact me again. When I saw him at the company again, he was expressionless, wearing a sharp black suit, his tousled hair slicked back with gel. The gold-rimmed glasses added a touch of restrained charm. He strode forward, flanked by several people, assigning tasks as he moved, radiating an aura of authority. It was the familiar President Ku, yet the unfamiliar Kuyan. That Kuyan who poked his head out of the kitchen wearing an apron, and called me to wash my hands and eat. It felt like he was just a figment of my imagination. I stood there in a daze, staring at him, until the receptionist beside me nudged me. Stunned? Hey, President Ku was in quarantine for 28 days. The hearts of all the female colleagues were broken. But he seems even more handsome since he came back. I heard you were quarantined for a long time too. Do you live in the same neighborhood? I forced a smile. No way. I'd have to work since the Yuan Muman era to afford that. I was quarantined after a business trip. Kuyan seemed unchanged, yet also very different. He was like the wind at hand, one moment lingering at your fingertips, the next blowing far, far away. Sigh. I sighed. Even if the man is gone, you still need to make a living. I pulled myself together and stepped into the elevator. Looking up, I froze. Kuyan was glaring at me, his eyes murderous, as if he wanted to devour me whole. Seriously? I didn't even do anything. Is this guy schizophrenic? I looked at him puzzled. He gritted his teeth fiercely, snorted, and turned away. The managers beside him didn't dare to breathe, filling the elevator with a suffocating tension. When the elevator reached the 18th floor, Yian strode out first, followed by the department managers who trotted after him, not daring to speak. He was fine at home. Who knew this jerk had two faces? He didn't contact me, yet he had the nerve to glare at me. Holding my documents, my mind was a tangled mess. Was he angry that I didn't keep living at his place? Or was he just playing with my feelings and wanted me to back off? I really wanted to go ask him directly. But my hidden, pitiful pride wouldn't let me take the initiative. Kuyan was good-looking, well-off, and capable. In my eyes, he had almost no flaws. Facing him, I already felt inferior. My pride wouldn't allow me to seek him out. Besides, if he really liked me, couldn't a grown man take the initiative to find me? Plainly put, he just didn't like me enough. My thoughts churned chaotically until a colleague nudged me. Hey, you Chia, what are you wearing to the annual party? Huh? I didn't follow. Your outfit. I heard there are 168 prizes at the party, and the grand prize is a car. Oh, I haven't thought about it yet, I replied listlessly. My luck had always been bad. Forget a car, getting a toy car would be an achievement. My colleague adjusted her glasses, concerned. You seem down since you came back. What's wrong? It's nothing, I smiled. Just haven't rested well these past few days. Ah, she sighed, hugging her files. President Ku too. I heard he's been in a terrible mood lately. Several managers got chewed out. I'm scared to attend meetings now. Ooh. My mind was filled with Kuyan. I couldn't focus on work, nor did I have the energy to prepare for any party. What did Kuyan mean? How could he be so annoying, this jerk? On the night of the annual party, I wore a black short dress with a coat draped over my shoulders and sat watching from below the stage. Colleagues on stage danced in flashy costumes, everyone wearing masks, which looked somewhat comical. My manager, noticing I hadn't been in good spirits lately, didn't assign me any tasks, just told me to rest. I sat at the back, watching Kuyan at the very front center. Light shone down from above, placing him right at the center, surrounded by people like stars around the moon. He seemed even more distant, as if from another world. I stared at his back for a while before the prize distribution drew my attention. Despite the tough times, the prizes were surprisingly generous this year. Even the lowest prize was a Dyson hairdryer. I looked at my number. 520. Someone had specifically given it to me earlier, saying it was a lucky number. Damn lucky, my foot. Even the third-place prizes were drawn, and my number still hadn't been called. Colleagues around me went up one after another to claim their prizes, not forgetting to console me afterward. It's okay, there's probably a consolation prize, I said expressionlessly. Thanks. I feel so consoled. The colleague who won the car was overjoyed, almost kowtowing to Kuyan on the spot. I was green with envy, crumpling my number slip in my hand. I waited and waited until all the prizes were drawn, not even a consolation prize for me. Enough. If this continued, I'd die of frustration. I stood up. The colleague behind me asked, "Where are you going?" Looking at the 20 grams gold bar she'd just won, I forced a fake smile. Going out for some fresh air. If I didn't leave, I might pass out from sheer jealousy. As soon as I stepped out of the banquet hall, the temperature dropped. I walked to the rooftop terrace. Snowflakes had started to fall. The orange glow from the distant clock tower tinted the snowflakes with warmth, drifting down from the sky like tiny lights. In the not-so-silent night, the streets buzzed with honking cars. Couples' faces were red from the cold, yet they wore happy smiles. I took a deep breath of the cold air, feeling the fire in my lungs slowly subside. Men, year-end bonuses, who cares? If I don't have them, so be it. I don't care. I stayed on the terrace until my hands and feet grew cold before heading back into the hotel. Passing through the terrace door, I unexpectedly saw Kuyan. In front of him was a tall, wavy-haired beauty in high heels, standing even an inch taller than him. Wrapped in a fur shawl with snow-white skin and red lips, she was tapping his chest with her finger. Kuyan grabbed her wrist and pulled her into an embrace. The two were pressed close, their gestures intimate. I stood frozen. The cold air I'd just breathed seemed to instantly freeze my heart. For a moment, I didn't even feel pain, just bewildered. No wonder he suddenly stopped contacting me. He'd found someone new. Or maybe I was just a toy to pass the time. Now that a new toy had arrived, the old one was naturally discarded. He played house with me for a few days, then walked away. The two in front grew more intimate, their bodies almost merging. Hian smirked, even reaching to lift the beauty's skirt. Were they planning to right here? A wave of nausea mixed with heartache surged through me. Just as I was about to slip away quietly, Kuyan suddenly looked up and saw me. Our eyes met. His expression changed drastically, his smile freezing instantly. He reached out. Wait. I didn't let him finish. I turned and ran. Damn. Wait for what? To watch them here. I sprinted downstairs like my life depended on it. I needed to get out. I needed to get away from this disgusting jerk. Kuyan's footsteps chased after me. Hey, Yushia, let me explain. Explain my ass. I couldn't run fast in heels. By the time I reached the parking lot, Kuyan had grabbed my wrist. Eyes red, panting, I looked up at him. Why are you chasing me? To silence me because I saw you two going at it. Kuyan laughed helplessly, holding up a wig. Damn it, this is a guy, my buddy. He's performing at his own company's annual party later. I stared dumbly at the wig, the same big waves I'd seen earlier. The click-clack of high heels grew louder. A man wearing a headpiece appeared behind Kuyan. He leaned against the door in burgundy high heels, panting heavily. Up close, I could tell he was indeed a man, handsome features, but not a trace of femininity. Seeing the wig in Kuyan's hand, the man cursed. You idiot! What the hell are you doing snatching my wig? Then he noticed me behind Kuyan. His expression instantly changed, breaking into a wide smile. Oh, sister-in-law. Don't misunderstand. I'm a guy, 100% man. He took off his fur shawl, flexing his bicep, then snatched the wig from Kuyan. After shooting Kuyan a glare, he smiled shyly at me. I gotta go, sister-in-law. I've got a performance. I'll treat you next time. With that, he wobbled away in his high heels. Believe me now? Kuyan turned my head back, annoyed. Why did you run? Think this is an idle drama? I felt a bit guilty, but quickly got angry again. What's it to you? Are we even related? Ku Yan looked down at me, a smirk tugging at his lips. No relation, just hugged, kissed and slept in the same bed. That's all. His voice was too loud. I quickly covered his mouth, glancing around. What nonsense are you spouting? Ku Yan frowned, displeased. What nonsense? Every word is true. You play around and then run off. And you think you're in the right. You didn't answer my calls, didn't accept my WeChat. You're something else. I'm telling you, trying to dump me isn't that easy. Wow, shifting the blame. Furious, I took out my phone and showed him. Do you have any shame? Lying through your teeth? When did you ever call me? Ku Yan checked my call log and froze. I really did call. He showed me his phone. Look, I called over 10 times a day these past few days. It was true. He really had called a lot. I looked closely. 3,158. I don't use that number anymore. I stared at Ku Yan speechlessly. Are you insane? I changed my number ages ago. Ku Yan frowned. Impossible. I checked the company intranet. Then it probably wasn't updated yet. Ku Yan erupted in anger. Who's in charge of logistics? Not updating the boss's wife phone number promptly? I'll fire them tomorrow. My face flushed. What boss's wife? Besides, if I didn't answer your calls, couldn't you come find me? Ku Yan fell silent for a moment, ruffling his hair irritably. I have pride too, you know. You didn't answer calls, didn't accept WeChat, and you even set it so I couldn't add you from group chats. I thought you were done playing and wanted to ditch me. Besides, isn't that why I came looking for you today? He muttered softly. Bullshit, I snapped. I only ran into you because of you too. Canoodling. What canoodling? Ku Yan laughed helplessly, patting my head. Why did you come out here? Dressed so lightly, aren't you cold? He led me aside. Let's get in the car to warm up. After being outside so long, my legs were aching from the cold. I followed him. It's all because of your stupid prize draw. What lousy number didn't win a thing? I complained. Not even a consolation prize. Ku Yan chuckled above my head. So dumb. What? I pinched his hand hard. What does it have to do with me? It's just bad luck. Ku Yan stopped by his car and held out his hand to me. I looked at him, puzzled. The number you drew. Give it to me. I searched my pockets and pulled out the crumpled slip of paper. 520. Ku Yan unfolded it seriously. Not bad. This is the special prize. I didn't get it. What special prize? The prize is a husband who can be your beast of burden. Ku Yan's lips curved into a smile as he opened the car trunk. The sleek Mercedes trunk slowly lifted, revealing a sea of roses and lights inside countless blooms at a glance. Ku Yan took a velvet box from his pocket and knelt before me. I always thought we needed a certificate to make it legal for me to be your beast of burden. The special prize for number 520 no exchanges. Soft light fell on his profile. Ku Yan, in his neat suit, knelt on one knee before me. A sincere smile graced his face, though his lips were pressed tightly. I couldn't help but laugh, tears streaming down my cheeks. Who proposes this quickly? Ku Yan's smile widened. Actually, I knew we'd be locked down that day. That's why I asked you to deliver the documents. Miscalculated the timing, almost let you slip away. I stared. What do you mean? Remember when you first joined the company and bumped into me? Before I could say anything, you ran off just like today. That's when I thought, woman, you've caught my attention. Are you acting out some overbearing CEO plot? I said, exasperated. Just kidding. Ku Yan slipped the ring onto my ring finger. His smile earnest and carefree. It's just that love comes without knowing why. And once it starts, it goes deep. Well? He nudged me. Your turn. What's your line? What line? My brain still hadn't caught up. TSK. Ku Yan frowned, looking at me disapprovingly. Say I do. I'd even booked a seaside restaurant. But you had to run off here. In the cold parking lot, under dim lights and in near silence. With only occasional car engines and honks, surrounded by flickering headlights and concrete pillars. Our audience wasn't people but rows of parked cars. There was no music, no stage lights, no crowd. But there was Ku Yan, Suddenly I felt there could be no more romantic setting than this. Tears welled in my eyes as I grinned at Ku Yan. I do.